What the hell is Niji mode? Well, I'll show you how to use it. I'll also show you what it's good for, where it really sucks, and I'll also share a secret method how you can Niji-fy your favorite version 4 images. So what exactly is Niji mode? Well, a bunch of mathematicians from MIT who also just happen to be anime fans decided to create Niji-Journey. Niji-Journey is a separate Midjourney bot that also integrates with the Midjourney system, and it's supposed to create much better images for anime and manga. And ever since a few weeks ago, Niji-Journey has now fully been integrated into Midjourney, and it's called Niji mode. So how exactly do you use Niji mode? Well, it's actually quite simple. You either add the Niji parameter at the end of every prompt, or if you want to switch to Niji mode as your default algorithm, you access the settings panel and then you click the Niji mode button. So let me give you a few examples of what Niji mode can do and how its images look. Based on my experiments, it works very well for known concepts and objects that are very common within the world of anime and manga. So let me give you a few examples. We're going to start off with imagine a cute cat, seed, and I always use a seed just so I have some reproducibility. And I'm just going to add Niji at the very end. All right, and as you can see, it has generated an image or 4 images of a cute cat, just like the prompt that I entered. And as you can see, it immediately understood that I wanted to see them in an anime or manga style. And Niji mode actually does a very good job at this. So let's try another example. I'm going to enter imagine close-up of a police officer, seed 2002, Niji. You do not need to add the seed, but I'm doing this just for reproducibility. All right, and it's processing and it's almost done. And as you can see, again, it's a very known concept, very common concept within anime. It's a close-up of a person, a police officer, and Niji mode is really good at producing those very typical sort of anatomy, those very typical facial features and the shapes of heads with exaggerated like big eyes. That's very common within anime. And well, let's have another look. Let's try this one. Imagine a blue country house, seed 2002, Niji. All right, and here's the next one. The blue country house, as you can see, if I go on close up, you can see that it has created a blue country house, but what it's done is it's added a very specific type of color scheme, a very typical sort of fluorescent kind of colors scheme with some pink, some glow features on the colors. This is the kind of stuff that we're used to from watching anime series. And if I had not used Niji mode on this prompt, I would have seen a completely different image specifically for the blue house. It would have been a lot more realistic and probably a lot darker as well. Let's look at one final example, and schoolgirls with rifles. I know this is a bit of a strange one, but I actually find this one quite entertaining. All right, and as you can see, what it does, it produces exactly what we would expect with the typical anime style, sometimes even with the girls sort of with their legs slightly bent here. This is the kind of stuff that you would expect to see, even though it's a slightly strange prompt that I gave it. But it does a really good job at producing generic anime style imagery. Now, one of the areas where Niji mode is not very good is whenever it's confronted with objects, scenes, or large scenery that it's not usually familiar with. And it then tends to produce images that look far too realistic. They don't look anything like anime style at all. Let me give you a few examples of what I mean. So I'm going to start off with giant sequoia tree, which is, I guess, somewhat unusual for anime, at least not being something as specific. Okay, and as you can see, these images do not look anything like anime, not at all. They actually look quite realistic, despite me adding the Niji parameter at the very end. So why is that? I really don't know. And the way you can fix this though, and this is the trick that I've learned, is you can add, we'll just use giant sequoia tree again. But if you now add anime style at the very end of your prompt, then it will produce an image that looks a lot more like what you would expect. Check it out. We've got our giant sequoia tree that looks significantly more like what you would see in anime or manga. And you can actually see that glow effect. It's chosen more bright colors. I would actually say it's reduced the color palette. And there's a small haze over the image here. So this is the type of stuff that you would expect to get from Niji mode straight away. However, in this case, we literally had to add anime style into the prompt so that it would be interpreted properly. So let me give you another example of how this works or does not work. I'm going to this time use something that's very realistic. Shibuya crossing. If you're familiar with Shibuya, it's one of the most famous crossings in Tokyo. It's the one where you have the four-way crossing and Niji. And let's look at what it produces straight out of the box. And just as I expected, we got images that do not necessarily look like anime. They look quite realistic. I think these would be decent photos that we would take nowadays, but we want to have something that looks a lot more like manga or anime. So what I'm going to do this time, I'm going to use the exact same prompt, Shibuya crossing in the year 2100. And this time though, I'm going to add, anime style at the end and Niji mode. All right, and as you can see, what it's done is it's added that whole sort of typical anime color scheme on top of it. And even though you might argue this still doesn't look perfectly like an anime series or manga, I do think that if you look at the details, it's quite clear that it's much closer to what we would have expected. And I'm going to show you one last example. Let's start off with the bad example. Shaolin Monk Warrior Seed 2022 Niji. And what you can see from the images is that even though, yes, these images are actually quite cool, they're great, they're not necessarily what we would have expected. And in order to get what we really want, something that looks like anime, we again once again need to add that small element to the prompt. Shaolin Monk Warrior, anime style. You could also use manga style. It will be more or less the same. Anime style, and then seed 2022 Niji, and let's check it out. Okay, so as you can see, it's worked. And we now have images that look a lot more like what we would have expected for an anime style. Some of them look slightly more 3D, like this one here at the bottom left, but the one at the top left looks absolutely amazing, and so does the one at the bottom right. And this is the kind of stuff that you would expect. And Niji mode is known to be very good at creating images that include dynamic poses. So this combative pose that you have right here, especially the one on the top right, kind of looks like if it was from Street Fighter. This is what Niji mode is really good at. So generally speaking, Niji mode is really good at producing known concepts that are very typical in anime and in manga. However, as soon as you confront it with more, big scenery or objects that it doesn't necessarily know from past images, it will struggle. And that's why it's not necessarily always the best choice to simply just add Niji without adding additional elements to the prompt, such as anime style. Now I'm going to let you in on a little secret, which I really enjoy doing, is that sometimes I find that with Midjourney version 4, you're actually able to produce the exact type of compositions that you're looking for. But using Niji mode, you can actually Niji-fy your past version 4 images, and you can create something completely new from them. So what you would do is you would use remix mode to Niji-fy an image that you really liked in version 4, but you want to give it an anime look. So let me show you how that would be done. I'm going to generate an image that is a close-up of a police officer. And from these images, I'm now going to pick let's take the bottom right one. I'm now going to pick the bottom right one, hit the variation 4 button, and I'm going to remix it. And I'm going to remix it by removing the algorithm modifier for version 4, and instead I'm going to replace it with Niji. And let's check out what happens now. So this worked out not entirely as I expected, but it does produce some images that we can use. So for example, what it's done now, it's used the original image, it's remixed it, and it's given it a Niji mode look, especially the one on the bottom left. Unfortunately, the bottom right and the bottom top and the top left have been completely messed up. This is unfortunately something that happens when you Niji-fy images. They do not always turn out to be perfect. Actually, as a matter of fact, very often the limbs, like the arms and the legs, will get messed up by remixing the images. However, in an earlier version where I tested this, I actually got a very, very good female face of the face of a female officer. And but let's give this another try with a different prompt. I'm going to start off with a close-up of a beautiful witch called Black Widow, and we're going to use the regular seed and version 4. All right, so from these images, we're now going to pick, which one do we pick? We're going to pick the bottom right one, and again, I'm going to hit the V4 button and simply replace the algorithm modifier with Niji, and let's see what happens then. And this time we got exactly what I wanted. Just as a comparison, let's have another look at the bottom right image right here. This has regular facial features that you would expect, quite realistic. But if we now open up this one, you'll notice that the face looks completely different. Well, not completely different, but it looks a lot more like what you would expect from an anime series. It's still not perfect, but it's increased the size of the eyes. It's created that pointy chin and pointy nose that we're all used to seeing in mangas and anime series. All right, so that's how Niji mode works in Midjourney. I hope you found this useful, and I do plan on creating another video in the future that shows you how you can actually create much better anime images using the regular version 4 of Midjourney rather than using Niji mode. But I'll save that for next time. Take care. All right. Oh, man. Danke.